ghost stories, and the evil spirits coming up on Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories YouTube channel, episode 11, sponsored by Caselet.com. Caselet.com. Design your unique and very affordable phone case with AI. Create your own stunning, one-of-a-kind phone case design using the power of artificial intelligence. Shop Caselet.com. Now, from Doc Moore's studio on Oahu, Hawaii, high up in the central Oahu Mountains, here's your host, Dr. Stephen B. Moore Sr.
Aloha, good evening. Welcome back to Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories. And we're going to continue with part 2, where we have the interview with a person who has experience with evil spirits, ghosts, and all kind of things that bump in the night. And oh yes, we're going to continue part 2 of the evil spirits story, where we talk about and relate what happened in a building filled with evil dead spirits who will not leave and will attack the human beings. But first, let's get back to part 2 with our special guest.
Go ahead.
Okay. When my daughter was 3, I was going to the bathroom. When I came out, I saw her sitting up, so I said, "Come on, big girl, come sleep with me." She didn't move, so I turned on the light, but she was still sitting. But it was a black figure, which gave me the chills. As I got to the room and flipped on the light, I noticed she was knocked out, dead asleep. I got the chills and took my kids out of the room and went back down the hall to my room. I shut the door and didn't come out until the morning, where everything was normal.
What do you think it was that you saw?
See, in that house, we think it was over there's a called Native American, maybe burial site. And that house had a bunch of strange things going on.
This is in California?
Mm-hmm. And then I remember something about, when she was, a different incident where she was giving her daughter a bath. She said she saw a giant Hawaiian warrior from the corner of her eye. He looked at her and ducked down and went into the closet. So she got up and looked inside that closet. Nobody was there. And then later on, she forgot that we had a picture of the Battle of the Pali on the stairway. And that gave her chills, so we removed that picture. And after that went down, she never saw him again.
Questions.
Okay,
so when you talk about the Pali, were y'all living in Hawaii at the time?
We were not. We bought a painting. It was Battle of the Pali. And I don't know why I picked that picture, but it just appealed to me at that time. So that's when I took it home.
But do you believe in ghosts?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Because of, it's just, I kept seeing them, like, not directly, but like at the corner of our eyes. And every time we looked, they weren't there. But I felt the chill.
Okay, so, can you tell me about that ghost that it has something about the vengeful Japanese ghost?
Oh, Idio?
Yeah.
All I know is that let's see. I'm trying to remember. It's like it didn't get to complete its mission.
Oh, okay.
And so they go after you might say it's a human spirit or soul.
Mm-hmm. And it just goes after people when they don't get one. It goes after others.
Yes.
All right. Is your daughter having any kind of supernatural events happening with her that she talks to you about now?
No, lately we haven't because we moved.
Okay.
We moved twice.
All right.
Oh, but I do have something that did happen.
What happened?
About 7 years ago, when we were living in an apartment waiting for a house to be built, my granddaughter was reading a book. It was called Ghosts and Ghost Gods of Hawaii. So I told her to quit messing around with that book and put it back because the pages were kind of loose. So I said, let me fix it and then you can read it. She said, okay. And so I put it out there. But what I didn't realize was she brought it back in. And the reason I knew is because my grandson started doing something odd. He would knock before he entered his room. And then he'd open it and he'd go in there. And then when he left, he would close the door. And he never did that. And I thought, that's weird. And this went on for a while. So when we were going for an outing and my granddaughter couldn't find her hoodie, I went in there to the room to look for it because she slept on the top bunk. And when I went to grab the hoodie, there was that book. So I said, why did you do that? And she said it scared her, so she threw the book. So I took that book and put it in the garage and hoped never to see it again. 7 months later, we moved into our new house, and he started the knocking on the door before he entered and closing the door after he came out. And I thought, what the heck? So I was talking with my daughter, so I decided to go investigate. And when I went into his room, the book was there on his bed. And that's when I confronted my granddaughter and told her, were you reading this book? She said, yes. She said, and I said, why is it on his bed? And she said, because she read one particularly scary story, and it scared her, so she threw it in his room instead of hers. So I told her to leave that book alone. And then I took that book and put it in the garage and put it inside of a bin and closed it. And it's out there since, and we never had that incident again. To Oahu, we decided to visit the Bishop Museum, and there you saw the Ali'inui portraits of them, and it felt like they would leap out at you. It was awesome. And then we went around the museum and looked at the stuff, and then when we went upstairs, we heard this woman's voice chanting, and so my husband saw her. It looked like she came out of the wall, and she was wearing a black holoku walking towards him. So he was scared. And he told me she popped right out of the walls. I said, no, she didn't. She's a performer. And he swore she did. And she came down to where the people were. And then there was a group of people that was waiting for her to chant to them. And he said he knows she popped out of the walls. And then he talked to the night guards over there, the security guards, and one of them said that there's worse stuff at night than you get chicken skin. So anyway, we didn't go back there. And I think even though my grandson can't talk, he too senses it. He sensed, like, for example, one time to Palm Springs, and then he was at, maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, restless because he was asleep, and I could hear his voice like he was shouting from a far away distance. So I shook him awake, and he said he felt like this dark thing was coming after him and trying to suck his life out. And then at the same time, my daughter said that my grandson came running down the hall, and he busted into her room, and his heart was just racing like mad. And she told him, come on, and she talked to him to see what was happening to calm him down, but he refused to come out of her room. He did not want to go back into his room, so she let him sleep. She went to go get my granddaughter and bring her too, but he refused because he felt it at the same time. And then, of course, they were in Palm Springs, so no telling where they built that hotel over, because they tend to build it over Native American burial grounds.
And that was our interview with Auntie from California, who had experienced paranormal examples and encounters in Japan and the United States, including California and Hawaii. So these things can happen to you because it happened to a solid citizen like our auntie over there in California. And keep those stories coming. She has plenty more. So in the future, we'll hear from Auntie and Uncle and others just like you. Now we're going to turn to part 2 of my story, The Evil Spirits. When we last heard, nobody wanted to work in the building. Nobody wanted to be in there after dark. And you know why. And I got this story again when I was in Berlin in the 1980s before the wall came down. So there were some very, very good stories about ghosts, particularly from World War II. And you'll hear more about the conclusion of what happened in this area of evil spirits. And remember, this is an excerpt from my book, Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories. The paranormal, the supernatural, the macabre. So enjoy it. This is an excerpt from my book, Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories. Stories of the supernatural, the paranormal, and the macabre from around the world. Beware. This is called The Evil Spirits. People were scared. They were afraid to be alone in the building. They especially did not want to stay in the building after dark. People did not want to be in the basement, particularly in the storage room.
I'm not going down there at all.
They were hesitant to use the basement storage room during the duty hours. They would not go down there in the evening at all.
I'm not going down there.
No one wanted to be left alone in the offices that were former cells in the basement.
Anytime.
People said they constantly heard screams, footsteps with no one in sight.
Someone is always making noise down there. I'm not staying there.
The manager of the building decided to contact someone at the university who could figure out what was going on. Electricians, plumbers, all engineering personnel checked the building and said there was nothing wrong with the pipes, electricity, the plumbing, nothing. Finally, someone called her from the university and referred her to a professor who had a paranormal investigation team.
He has a paranormal investigation team.
The professor, his wife, who was a psychic medium, and their team came to the building. The psychic medium, who was the professor's wife, said, "We're going to use a means to contact the spirits in the conference room in the basement. We're going to do a seance."
We're going to do a seance.
The professor had 4 team members and his wife, the psychic medium, sit around the conference table in the large conference room. In the middle of the table, the psychic placed a spirit board. The Ouija board was known to be a means of communication with the spirit world. The psychic would lead the group in a seance while using the Ouija board as a means for opening the spirit door and contacting any spirits in the room that came through. The remaining team members would monitor the electronic equipment to capture any sights, sounds, and images that emerged from the seance.
Monitor the equipment. Make sure that the sound.
The team members cut off all the lights. The psychic locks the doors so no one could interrupt the session. The curtains were pulled shut. All the sensing equipment ran silently. The psychic reminded everyone to remain in contact, continue holding hands, and not to break the circle, so that any spirit would have to remain in the room. Team members present for the seance looked at each other nervously as they held hands to create a circle at the table. The psychic closed her eyes and called out to the spirit. The Ouija board trembled on the table.
Spirits.
The seance began.
Speak to us.
The psychic put her hands on the planchette and requested that the door to the spirit world
I'm
open,
requesting now
and that
the
those
door
entering
to the
pose no
spirit
harm
world
to the
open.
participants.
Spirits,
Breaking the circle would render them
come to
vulnerable
us
to
and
any
tell
mean
us
spirit
who you
entity,
are.
so it was critical to stay together.
You must talk to me. Who's
The
in
psychic
room
began
now?
to ask who was there to speak with her. Were there
Who is
people in the room? That planchette moved and said, N-A-Z-I. The professor and team members in the nerve center noted with shock the word that was spelled out. The psychic asked her second question. She asked, "Why are you here?"
Why are you here?
Again, the planchette slowly moved to spell out the answer to the question. Here to get souls. Everyone took a deep breath. The planchette began to move again, even though no question was asked. The planchette spelled out, "Last question." The psychic reminded everyone not to break the circle, no matter what. Do not let go of each other's
Keep your
hands.
locked.
The psychic took a deep breath and then asked the third question. "Why are you hurting people? The war is
Why
over.
are
You are
hurting
dead.
people?
Release the prisoners. Free them. You need to
Leave.
go to the other
Leave this
side.
building
Why are you
now."
still hurting people?" No sooner had the psychic asked the question for the third time than she received the most intense of responses. Low groans, cries, and sounds of movement around the table by someone dragging their feet. The sounds were bone-chilling to the team members. The planchette moved fast across the board, going back and forth and spelling out the final answer. "No. We must get souls. Master wants souls. We take your souls. You die now." A scream erupted, causing the seance participants in the conference room and the technicians in the other room collecting data to jerk with shock. They all froze. Sounds like scratching on the floor, on the walls, on the ceiling erupted in the room.
Get back
Shuffling
your
sounds,
soul.
like someone with restraints on her ankles, sounded like it was coming from all around the room. Moans and groanings started out low and built into loud yells. Screams and sounds of beatings were followed by commands in Old German. More groans, sharp screams. Someone was begging for mercy.
Give us your soul.
The psychic called out, "Who is there? Who is there? What is your name? What is going on?"
Who is this? What
Then
do you
there
want?
was silence.
Why are you here?
Then a low voice. A man with a deep voice spoke in German. This spirit said he was getting information from the prisoner. Why did she interrupt him when time was of the essence?
You interrupted our
The evil spirit said that this prisoner was reluctant to tell the truth, so the voice said the prisoner must be tortured and persuaded to answer his questions. And you will be tortured too. Then multiple screams erupted from different parts of the room. The corner, the back of the room, near the door, by the window. The psychic demanded that the deep voice spirit tell the team his name.
What is your
The
name?
voice replied
Leave.
that he would ask the questions, and it was now their turn to answer. Member by member of the paranormal team fell to the floor, one screaming about his eyes burning, another wailed loudly in pain as he was flung in a dark corner of the room, screaming that her legs were on fire. Everyone on the seance team was yelling and shouting. The remaining team members at the table let go of each other's hands and ran from the table. The psychic yelled for them to come back and hold hands to contain the spirit.
Come, you must come back to the
Reluctantly, they
table.
returned and grasped hands.
We have to lock
The
hands
psychic
to
closed the
close
session by ending the permissions for the spirit to enter the room. The professor and the nerve center team members looked at the equipment. They were amazed at the data collected. Thermal cameras showed multiple figures in the room against the walls and moving toward the table. The sound was captured of the spirit speaking to the psychic and each other, giving directions to hurt the investigators. The psychic and the seance team and all of the paranormal investigators fled the building for the safety of the nerve center. They all swore they heard laughing as they ran for the front door.
This concludes episode 11, part 2 of Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories YouTube channel, sponsored by Caselet.com. Caselet.com, design your unique and very affordable phone case with AI. Create your own stunning, one-of-a-kind phone case design using the power of artificial intelligence. Caselet.com brings your vision to life. Shop Caselet.com. Join us next time for Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories YouTube channel. Send your comments, criticisms, questions, and more to Doc Moore's Collection of Horror at hotmail.com or www.docmooremediaproductionsllc.com. Click on the subscribe button. Follow and like Doc Moore on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories is available in ebook, paperback, and hardcover at www.amazon.com/Doc Moore's Collection Horror Stories. Check out Doc Moore and the Moorhana Band on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube, Pandora, and other streaming platforms. Audio and video production created by Tanya L. and Stephen B. Doc Moore Sr. at the Moorhana Band at the Doc Moore Recording Studios, Central Oahu, Hawaii. All content created, recorded, and produced and under copyright by Dr. Stephen B. Moore Sr., PhD, Media Productions, LLC. Join us next time.